I call your attention to the Gospel according to St. Luke. The Gospel according to St. Luke, the 19th chapter. Luke, the 19th chapter, and we're going to read verses 1 through 10. That's St. Luke, the 19th chapter, verses 1 through 10, and I'll be reading from the New King James Version. St. Luke, the 19th chapter, verses 1 through 10, and we will find these words. Then Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. Now behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, who was a chief tax collector, and he was rich, and he sought to see who Jesus was, but could not because of the crowd, for he was of short stature. So he ran ahead and climbed up a sycamore tree to see him, for he was going to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must stay at your house. And so he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. So he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. But when they saw it, they all complained, saying, he has gone to be a guest with a man who is a sinner. And then Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, look, Lord, I give half of my goods to the poor. And if I have taken anything from anyone by false accusations, I'll restore fourfold. And Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, because he also is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. I want to talk about this morning the pre and post Zacchaeus. The pre and post Zacchaeus is the subject that we're going to talk about this morning. The pre and the post Zacchaeus. Now, when I speak of pre and post, I am talking about the person before and the person after a certain event, situation, or life experience. We should not evaluate a person or a people or a church only by their pre-life condition. To really get a comprehensive view of a person, of a people, or a church, we must look at their whole life and not just part of it. It would be unfair to hold people in the yoke of sameness all of their lives without giving consideration that people can undergo transformation. Hopefully, all of us are moving from our pre to post lives. Hopefully, all of us are evolving from being sinners to becoming saints. We started out living one way, but ended up living another way. Something is inherently wrong when a person's pre and post life remain the same. Something is awry when adults are acting like, living like, and talking like children. Something is out of balance when people remain the same all of their lives. There ought to be a distinguishable pre-life and post-life. In order for this to happen between the pre-life and the post-life, something spiritual has to take place within us. I believe the reason people never change, the reason they are never transformed is they have never undergone spiritual rebirth. Yes, they can go to church, they can take part in ministries, they can participate in cultural activities of the community, but internally they have not changed. However, way they were when they were young, they are the same way now. The only difference is they've gotten older. There are people, my brothers and sisters, who got that same old racism, the same old hatred, the same old attitude, the same old evil, the same old savagery, the same old tricks, the same old backwardness that they used to have. They have not been able to move from their pre-lives to their post-lives. Their pre-lives have never experienced a spiritual metamorphosis. And therefore, they remain the same. I don't believe you prayed with me. Can you imagine if caterpillars never experienced a metamorphosis? We wouldn't have the pleasure of seeing butterflies. Can you imagine if tadpoles never experienced metamorphosis? We wouldn't have the pleasure of seeing frogs. Can you imagine those who call themselves Christians never experience a metamorphosis? We wouldn't get a glimpse of God anywhere. A spiritual rebirth has to happen between our pre and our post lives. Now let me talk about the pre-Zacchaeus. The pre-Zacchaeus was a Jew, a son of Abraham. He was a very short man, a midget, who was a chief tax collector, who took advantage of his own people. The tax system Zacchaeus worked under encouraged cheating and corruption, and Zacchaeus could not resist the temptation to make himself a very rich man. He cheated his countrymen. Because of his unethical practices, he was not only disliked, but he was an outcast in his own community. People looked upon him with disdainment because he had no morals. And when his name came up in a conversation, people did not speak well of him. This was Zacchaeus' pre-life. This was Zacchaeus' pre-life before he moved to his post-life. This was the life that people knew of him and would not let him forget it. Sometimes people act and live a certain way so long, other people believe they can't change. And when they do change, people only remember their pre-lives. People won't allow themselves to treat people differently who have become post-lives. They say, well, I remember when he or she was this way or that way. I remember when we were children. I remember when we were teenagers. I know what he used to do. I know the places he used to go. Those examples are a person's pre-life. Why can't we let people break out of their pre-life and become post-life? Pray with me if you please. And so it was with Zacchaeus. The people of the community wouldn't allow Zacchaeus to become a post-Zacchaeus. And when Jesus was passing through Jericho, Zacchaeus sought to see Jesus. He had heard about Jesus. He heard about how Jesus started a revolutionary movement comprising of all kinds of people. People like harlots and lepers, beggars, cripples, corrupt politicians, thieves and liars and shysters and thugs and whoremongers. a startling band of despised misfits who had joined the movement Jesus started in order to Christianize the whole world. Was it curiosity? Was it his conscience that stirred Zacchaeus to see Jesus? Maybe it was both, because Zacchaeus wanted to feel again that he was part of the human family. He wanted to be loved, and he wanted to be part of his community. But his profession made him one of the most hated men in his district, and it made him an outcast. Yes, he knew people hated him, yet he reached out for the love of God to see, would it include him? Would the love of Jesus Christ penetrate the thick resistance of public opinion and restore Zacchaeus to wholeness? You know, we can do wrong so long that we can't feel again. We can't feel the love and the support of people around us. So Zacchaeus wanted to feel again. He wanted to be loved again. So therefore, he wondered if Jesus would accept him. Though people might not accept him, but he could become a post-Zacchaeus. While Jesus was passing through Jericho, crowds of people gathered around him in the way to see and to touch him. Zacchaeus tried to see him, but because he was a short man, he couldn't see over the crowd. And because he couldn't see over the crowd, he didn't let that stop him from getting to Jesus. His short height, his pre-life, and the opinions of people did not stop him from trying to see Jesus. His determination drove his desire to become creative, and creative he was. Well, I know I'm short. I can't see over the crowd, but there's a tree there, and I'm going to climb upon the tree. Isn't that something? The tree of life, the tree that Jesus would be crucified on, is the same tree or a tree that Zacchaeus climbed upon in order to see my Lord. Pray with me if you please. Zacchaeus ran ahead of the crowd, and he climbed up the sycamore tree to see Jesus when he passed by. My brothers and sisters, I wish people had that same determination today as Zacchaeus did to see Jesus. Too often people allow things to get in their way. Sometimes they know that people hate them, or somebody can lie on them, or somebody mistreat them. These things can cause people to stay at home and stay away from seeing Jesus. I don't care how bad we are. I don't care what our reputation is. There is a possibility to move from your pre-life to your post-life. My brothers and sisters, some people use the excuse, well, I don't have adequate clothes. Well, you didn't come here with clothes. I don't have any shoes. You weren't born with shoes. I don't have any money. You weren't born with money. My job demands too much of my time. My foot hurts. My head aches. All kinds of excuses to keep us from seeing Jesus. But Zacchaeus was determined to see Jesus. When Jesus came to the tree, he saw Zacchaeus and he said, now Zacchaeus, I want you to make haste. I know about your reputation. I know you're a chief tax collector. I know that people don't like you, but I love you. I want you to come down, for I'm going to abide in your house. And because people don't want you to forget your pre-life, see, people start complaining. Look at this priest. Look at this young rabbi. He's going to spend time in the house of a sinner. I'm so glad that he spent time with me as a sinner. And you ought to be glad that he spent time with you as a sinner. So people were angry at Jesus for going to the house of a sinner. For Zacchaeus, Jesus spending time with him. Notice what I said. Jesus spending time with him. And he spending time with Jesus made all the difference in the world. Now, I don't know what the conversation was about. But Zacchaeus stood on his feet and said, Lord, I give half of my goods to the poor. And whatever I have taken, by false accusation, I'm willing to give it back with interest. My brothers and sisters, in other words, he was saying that, Lord, I'm willing to make right what I have done wrong. I'm willing to give back what I have taken wrongfully. I'm ready to serve and become an advocate of your love, your grace, and your mercy. Zacchaeus well knew the necessity of restoring property in order to reconstitute personhood. He knew giving back what had been taken is an essential ingredient in repentance. And when he repented in his heart, Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house. Whatever Zacchaeus took for people, he gave it back, and he gave it back with interest. Now I want you to hear me as I bring this message on to a close. Can we say this about America? Not only did America take black people from that continent, but enslaved them for 250 years and didn't give them a dime. Then 100 years of exploiting them by paying them less for their labor. Nobody really wants to talk about reparations for black America, but this is exactly what Zacchaeus told Jesus. Whatever I have taken, I'm willing to give it back. He couldn't say this until he accepted Christ in his heart. And until America accepts Jesus Christ in their hearts, they won't right the wrongs. They won't give back what they have taken. And salvation won't be theirs until they do. Jesus said, after Zacchaeus had said, whatever I have taken, then Jesus said, salvation has come to this house. And when America's house, when America has truly repented, then heaven will say, salvation has come to the house. My brothers and sisters, but because America has not repented of her first transgressions, this is why she's still racist. This is why she's still oppressive. This is why she's still exploitative and still plagued with white supremacy. Until America tells Jesus, whatever we have taken, we would give it back. Whatever we have done, we will make it right. Until America repents in her heart, there won't be reconciliation, there won't be any peace, and there won't be any harmony in the land. Zacchaeus received Jesus in his heart, and he moved from pre-Zacchaeus to post-Zacchaeus. I'll be glad when America receives Jesus in her heart so she can move from pre-America to post-racial America. We haven't gotten to a post-racial America because repentance has not taken place. I wish I had somebody praying with me. I'm in the church today. So Zacchaeus became a transformed man. And whenever we receive Jesus, we too can move from our pre-lives to our post-lives. Now I'm going to tell you the story and then I'm going to be done. It is said that Michelangelo, the great sculptor, went to the market and he bought an ugly piece of marble nobody else wanted to buy. It was flawed, it was defective, and it was warped. And after buying this ugly piece of marble, people began to question Michelangelo, why would he buy such an ugly piece of marble? The great sculptor said, I bought this ugly piece of marble because there's an angel in it, and I want to set it free. So Michelangelo took his chisel and started carving away at that old, flawed, defective, and warped piece of marble. He carved and he carved. Early in the morning, he would rise and carve some more. He would work carving through the late hours of the night. And when he finished carving on that ugly piece of marble, he had transformed it into a beautiful statue of an angel. What was once ugly was now beautiful. What was once flawed was now sound. What was crooked was now straight. The great sculptor had transformed it from his pre-looking situation to his post-looking reality. And this is what Jesus can do for us. When we accept him in our hearts, our characters change, our attitudes change, our talk changes, our walk changes, our outlook changes. We are no longer the same when Christ enters into our hearts. And I don't know about you, but I'm glad that I moved from my pre-life to my post-life. I'm not perfect, but the Lord is still chiseling away on my life. He's chiseling away that pre-self, the chisel of his word. And the more I allow him to work on it, the more he works on me. It does not yet appear what I shall be and what you shall be. Yeah. My brothers and sisters, God is not finished with us yet. Allow the Lord to keep chiseling away until he can make you into the Son of God. Let him keep chiseling away at your First Baptist until we can look like sons and daughters of God. Allow him to chisel until we're able to say, as Job, you slayed me, yet will I trust in him. Allow him to chisel until we can say we are hard pressed on every side, yet not crushed. We are perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but we are not destroyed. Yeah. Only when we allow Christ to come into our hearts can we move from our pre-lives to our post-lives. And don't you let anybody fool you. However way we came into the world, I don't care however way you came, you can be transformed. You can move from your pre-life to your post-life if you accept Jesus in your heart. Just like Zacchaeus, he moved from pre-Zacchaeus to post-Zacchaeus. And I don't know about you, but I tell the Lord to keep carving away at me, carving away, and I'm praying that God keep carving away at First Baptist so we can move from our pre to our post lives.